Hey there guys, how are you? Welcome back to another awesome video, and it's time for another top 10 video. And so for today's top 10 list, with it being, I think it's been 2 months since Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has been in theaters, within probably this month, maybe next month, maybe a couple of weeks, it's most likely going to be coming out on DVD, and this being Quentin Tarantino's ninth film and everything, and the possibility that maybe Tarantino is going to make a 10th movie. I figured let's talk about, for this top 10 list, let's talk about the top 10 possible possibilities for Quentin Tarantino's 10th and final film. So for this list, we're going to look at possibilities, ideas, whatever the case is, of movies, sequels, whatever it is, that Quentin Tarantino could possibly have be his final film, because he said in recent, not in recent reviews, but since with Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, the interviews and everything, he has stated that he wants to do one more movie and 10 films, and that's his final film, and that's it. Tarantino will be done. So he's done 9 so far, obviously, so only one more to go. And so we're going to look at some ideas, some possibilities, what could be that final film, what maybe should be that final film, all sorts of ideas like that. So let's just jump right into it. So at number 10 is Star Trek. So Star Trek is definitely one that Tarantino's talked about for a little while and everything. So I don't want that to be his final film, but most likely that is. He's talked about doing Star Trek. I don't know why Star Trek, but he wants to do Star Trek. He's talked about doing an R rating, give it like maybe a little bit of gore to it, give it to like that sort of Tarantino sort of vibe. Carl Urban's on board with it, stuff like that. So this would be Star Trek 4, I think, maybe? Or is this, I don't know if this is going to be Tarantino's own Star Trek trilogy. I don't know. Well, not trilogy, but either this is going to be Star Trek 4, or this is going to be like his own Star Trek movie, and then that's it. But kind of sounds like one of those, like, it's crazy, but interesting ideas. Kind of like, real quick, I'm going to say, kind of in, as an example, kind of almost similar to how Tim Burton was going to make a Superman movie. Like, it's weird, but you're kind of intrigued by the idea. The same concept goes for here, because Tarantino doesn't seem the type of dude to do like really necessarily sci-fi. So it'd be kind of interesting for him to go into that route, that sort of territory. So who knows, really? So number 9, Kill Bill Volume 3. So people are kind of fine with Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2 being the sort of like one movie and that's sort of it sort of thing. But let's face it, like I said, with Star Trek, Tarantino's also mentioned the idea of maybe doing a third Kill Bill. I don't know if this would wrap up Kill Bill or if this would start a new chapter and everything, but it would be interesting to see, especially having a trilogy. This would be Tarantino's first trilogy. I think it's the most fitting to make this his own trilogy, because out of all the movies he's done, this one has more franchise, sort of not material, but it has already 2 movies. So to make it a trilogy would be kind of a good, perfect send off and a good sort of final film for Tarantino, especially since he loves Kill Bill, and this was kind of, I don't know if this was a personal film for him or not, but this was definitely an epic film for him. This was kick ass and everything. So it just kind of makes a little bit sense. Whether, like I said, whether it adds a new chapter or if it continues or not would be interesting for me to see. Definitely, without a doubt. So that's always an idea. Number 8 is a Marvel movie. Now, Tarantino's not usually the guy to go to comic book films, Marvel films, and stuff like that, franchises and everything. Although he has technically a franchise with Kill Bill, like I've said. But the idea of him doing a Marvel movie makes sense, because let's face it, I don't see him doing a DC film. So if you're gonna do one or the other, you might as well do Marvel. DC, I don't see anything that he could touch on. Maybe Jonah Hex, but it makes the most more sense, because he works well with Samuel Jackson, so maybe you can do something with Sam Jackson again, have them work together one final time. Obviously, because they threw in that reference in Captain America: The Winter Soldier, the the Path of the Righteous Man sort of thing on Nick Fury's grave, his fake grave sort of thing. So I feel like there's some tie-ins. Maybe there's some ideas that maybe Tarantino's like, he's kind of on board with the Marvel movies. He's not like trash bagging everybody like other directors like Spielberg, like Scorsese, or whoever the hell is bagging on Marvel films right now. Jason Statham, even though he's not a director, but still he's bagging on Marvel films and superhero franchise and all that stuff. But he's kind of like a little on board with it. He's like, you know what? I kind of love the fact that they threw that in there. I see what you did there, Marvel. I see what you did there, Russo brothers, and I respect you for that. So you can do, definitely there's a lot more opportunities for a Marvel movie that Tarantino could do compared to DC, because you could maybe have him do another Deadpool in case Tim Miller or whoever the director of Deadpool 2 couldn't do, let's say, Deadpool 3, or if they're going to do Deadpool 3, whatever the case is, you could do something like that. You can do something in that R-rated territory. I don't advise him doing a Wolverine movie, but that's definitely not on the table, but it's not off the table as well. So you kind of definitely have more. You definitely have a lot more you can do. Maybe you could do like even some obscure ideas. Like maybe you could do something like Hit Monkey. If anybody knows what Hit Monkey is, then yes, I would. I'd be down for a Tarantino Hit Monkey movie. But point is, there's definitely a lot of room for Tarantino to kind of like do his thing and be like, you know what, I don't need to be restricted to this sort of like realm of, I gotta throw in CGI, I gotta have this big blockbuster film. I can make this a personal story, and have it be a low budget film and all these other things, and do whatever, and my own effects and etc. Number 7, Killer Crow. So that sounds like a Crow sequel, but no, it's not a Crow sequel. So in the movie Inglorious Bastards, I think there is a character, or there's some mention of a thing called the Killer Crow, or there's a story, a book called the Killer Crow. One way or another, this story does have interest to it, and seems like something Tarantino would be invested in. This sort of idea, this sort of, I guess he's like a murderous person. I'm very unsure on the Killer Crow exactly. I know I think I've seen a book about it called The Killer Crow. It definitely delve with the 1940s, definitely dealt with 50s, sort of that old World War I, World War II, sort of Nazi sort of era sort of thing. Tarantino's definitely not shy to dive into that sort of politicalness and not controversy, but continuity, the politicalness, the message of what he did with Inglorious Bastards definitely could be translated really well with this book. If this was an actual, I don't remember if this was a character called the Killer Crow in Inglorious Bastards, but if he is, he would deserve his own spin-off. That sounds really awesome. And just that title alone sounds like a Tarantino sort of thing. And you'd be surprised some of the source material that Tarantino has adapted is from books. I think or novels and stuff like that. I think Jackie Brown is a novel, or The Hateful Eight might be something. So you'd be surprised. And number 6 is a horror movie. Yes, with Halloween, obviously this would make sense. Well, not Halloween, but we're in the month of October, so it makes sense to talk about something Halloween related. And we'll talk about more horror stuff and Halloween stuff within the rest of the month of October, frequently here and there. Maybe we'll talk about it in the beginning of November, but point is that from the month of October, the beginning of October to now, to November, maybe the beginning of November, maybe the weekend of Halloween, whatever the case is, would be the opportunity to talk about horror stuff and Halloween and review stuff like that. But anyways, so definitely this would be, since it seems like Tarantino wants to delve into other sort of genres he's done, sort of like crime dramas, he's done action, he's done comedies, he seems like he wants to go into sci-fi with Star Trek. Maybe he should do a horror movie. This seems like up his alley. This would be a hit home runner for him if he does a horror movie. Because the gore, the violence, I feel like maybe you could do a little bit of scares. I don't know how well Tarantino would be at sort of like characters and creatures and the prosthetics and CGI or whatever that he would do with said things. But if you look at something like From Dusk Till Dawn, that has a sort of like almost not a horror element, but you definitely the creature designs of the vampires and those monsters. Definitely would be something cool to see something out of Tarantino's briefcase, his own like filmography, to see that would be an interesting idea, and to have a different kind of take on horror. See if there's anything he can maybe offer. Maybe he could do a spoof, like not really a spoof, but a parody. Maybe like Scream. Maybe he could do something similar to that. Who knows? Add some commentary to the horror genre. Whatever the case is, whether it's a comedy / horror movie, whether it's just a straight up horror flick, I feel like Tarantino could do something really cool with this. All right, we're nearing down our final 5 on my list, and at number 5 is another Western movie. Tarantino really loves his Western movies, and I don't blame the guy. I mean, like, you see this right here? You see this flick right here? This is why he loves Westerns, because he made an awesome flick like Django Unchained right here. So, that's Tarantino for you. And he did The Hateful Eight. He seems to really like Westerns, and he likes to put himself in those little Western movies. He made a cameo, I think, in Django Unchained. He's talking about rumors of doing another Django Unchained. We'll get to that later. Maybe shortly, maybe later, but we'll see. Point is, I wouldn't be surprised if he does another Western. He seems like that era, those cowboys, those bounty hunters. It's sort of there's something interesting. There's always something unique with the Old West. Even if history is not accurate, even if it is accurate, obviously, I guess it isn't accurate because obviously cowboys and the Indians and stuff like that, and also the craziness. So maybe you could add another Western, whether it be a sequel to one of his movies, like right there, maybe. Who knows? That already exists. Or you could do something different with another Western movie. And definitely really be cool because he loves Westerns, and to kind of give him a Western movie as his final film seems sort of a good send-off. Number 4, Django Unchained 2 / Django Zorro. So hear me out for a second. There's a rumor that Tarantino has talked about Django Unchained maybe having a sequel, and either it's going to have a sequel or it could maybe have a crossover. So with either way, this sounds like a sequel to Django Unchained. So if this is just going to be a straight up sequel to Django Unchained, I would love for that to happen. I want to see where would Django go next. I mean, the first film kind of doesn't need a sequel, but if you want to create maybe like a whole like world centered around Django, that I'd be up for. So to see kind of like what is he going to do next? Is he like is he going to like train and mentor a new slave? Because at the end he releases slaves and he's like, I can help you find that man that basically slaved you and then murdered your family, or whatever the case is. Kind of taking where Christoph Waltz kind of left off. Now Django is being that mentor for a slave. That kind of is a cool idea, a little bit. However the story would be, don't matter. But that idea really sounds cool. So this Django Zorro thing is another rumor that's been going around, that the possibility that maybe we could have a crossover with Django and Zorro. And that sounds like a good concept. There's comics out there with Django and Zorro bumping heads, and definitely you have the different sort of like, they're definitely different in characters, so to see those two kind of work off each other differently would be cool. One being this sort of like Western bounty hunter, the other kind of being like an vengeful masked swordsman sort of thing. So gunsman, swordsman kind of would be a cool like dynamic duo. The comics sound really cool. I don't know if Robert Rodriguez did Zorro, but if he did, Robert Rodriguez and Tarantino really love to collab with each other a lot, or like to work with a lot of things. One particular thing being that they did, what was it called? Tarantino and Robert Rodriguez did like a back-to-back feature films. Robert Rodriguez did Plant Terror, and then what was it? Tarantino did Death Proof. So whether Rodriguez made Zorro or not, it makes sense for them to kind of like make this sort of film and everything, especially since they've worked with Jamie Foxx. Both directors have worked with Jamie Foxx, and they've worked with Antonio Banderas. I don't know about bringing back Antonio Banderas as Zorro, but whatever the case is, doesn't matter. Don't matter. Point is, This sounds really cool. I wouldn't mind a Django Unchained sequel. So number 3 is a revisionist history trilogy. So we don't necessarily have a trilogy, but in a way, through Tarantino's films, like the fictional ones, because there's like I guess there's like two different universes with Tarantino. There's like the fictional universe and then like the non-fictional universe or something like that. It's weird. There's a whole theory that there's a Tarantino cinematic universe underneath our noses. So there's that. But within this, I think it's like the fictional universe. We have two different eras and time eras and different time periods. One being Django Unchained, that's taken place in the Old West, that old era of history, so probably like 1800s, stuff like that, 1885, 1890, stuff like that, I'm assuming. And then you have Inglorious Bastards, that being the second sort of historical movie event. Like it's a fictional movie set in a time era, in a different time period. So Inglorious Bastards being in 1940s, World War II sort of era. Now, imagine adding another flick to that sort of trilogy. Not necessarily a trilogy, but in a sort of small, slight way, kinda. So this third one could really be a different time period. You can maybe go back before ancient Old West, like maybe ancient Egypt. I know it doesn't make any sense. Maybe do say, maybe do something like with Old Britain, Old English, Old UK, maybe do something before that. Maybe do something after the 40s. Maybe do something in the 50s. Maybe do something in the who knows when. Not sure. But to add to that, I guess, trilogy, but not quite a trilogy, would kind of work. There's definitely there's possibilities out there for what this could be, so on and so forth. Number 2 is the Vega brothers. So this is a little bit hard to do because the Vega brothers being John Travolta's character in Pulp Fiction. Yes, Quentin Tarantino directed Pulp Fiction. If you guys didn't know that, then I don't know what to say. But John Travolta's character from I just lost it. Pulp Fiction, and then Mr. I think it was Mr. No, not Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown was Quentin Tarantino. Mr. White from Reservoir Dogs. So the whole theory, or I don't know if it's rumored or if it's been confirmed, but Mr. White from Reservoir Dogs and Vince from Pulp Fiction are supposedly brothers. So fans have been wanting to see the Vega brothers because they're called Vega. So Vince Vega, and I forgot what his actual name was, but his last name is Vega. So there's a connection that maybe these two are brothers and everything. And yes, both of these brothers are now currently dead, because at the end of Pulp Fiction, we see that John Travolta is dead. And then at the end, well, not at the end of Pulp Fiction, it's sort of in the middle. But we'll talk about Pulp Fiction another time, about the whole sort of scheme of how that was put together and how it's cohesive. But at one point, John Travolta's character, Vince Vega, is dead. He's killed by Bruce Willis. So, spoiler alert. But I mean, if you haven't seen Pulp Fiction, I don't know. But with Reservoir Dogs, Mr. White was shot as well and stuff like that. But maybe you could do something before these two kind of got killed off. Maybe within the time span, Vince wasn't on screen in Pulp Fiction and Mr. White wasn't on screen in Reservoir Dogs. You can have maybe a sort of in-between sort of movie where they did maybe some sort of maybe just a hit and run, just the two of them. Maybe this could be before Reservoir Dogs and before Pulp Fiction, before they kind of got their own gigs. Maybe they were basically partners in crime, brothers in crime, like the Gecko brothers and Dusk Till Dawn. So maybe you could do something like that. And I know the weird, tricky part about this is the idea that Travolta is old, and the guy who played Mr. White is old too. And you can either go with the idea of maybe de-age them, like have the CGI de-age effect that they've done recently. They did that with they're recently doing that with Will Smith and Gemini Man. They did that with I don't know if they did it with Carrie Fisher. No, actually, I don't remember if they did that. They did that with Tony Stark at one point in one of the Captain America movies. I think it was Civil War. Stuff like that. I think they did that with Jack Sparrow, Johnny Depp in the recent Pirates of the Caribbean movie. So there's that de-aging, like sort of CGI that they've been recently doing and developing. So maybe we could do that with Travolta. And I can't remember the actor who plays Mr. White. So let's just call him Mr. White for now. And Mr. White's actor. Or I guess you could easily put younger actors in those roles, but it depends. Literally, I could flip a coin and say either or, which one I prefer. I don't have a preference, but this would be a cool idea to kind of have the Vega brothers do something. It intrigues me. It's really cool. It'd be really badass. It'd be kind of fun. It'd be really interesting. It doesn't matter what the mission's going to be, what the hit's going to be, whatever the heist is. Doesn't matter. It could be heistmen. So there's definitely some cool ideas. But before I unveil my number one pick, here are a few honorable mentions, and yes, I have to do this. So let's see. Pulp Fiction 2. Tarantino originally wanted to do a Pulp 2, and there's obviously reasons why he can't do a Pulp 2 and why he won't do a Pulp 2. I think he said before that he doesn't do franchises or sequels or stuff like that. But yeah, he did Kill Bill Volume 1 and Volume 2. And I know he shot that, I think, in the same time period, but he split them up into 2 volumes. But still, I don't know if that could work. Maybe that can work. Maybe this could be like an in-between sort of thing. Like maybe not quite like a Pulp 2, but maybe this is some like a spin-off that happened during Pulp Fiction, or maybe during this movie or during that movie in Quentin Tarantino's filmography. So Pulp 2 doesn't sound too bad. It'd be weird, but it doesn't sound too bad, especially of what they had in mind. Red Dead Redemption movie. I know people want it. Some people really want a Red Dead Redemption movie. Obviously, with the video game being such a really great success, this being a Western, this kind of is kind of not necessarily a match made in heaven, but you have a Western video game that can be adapted as a movie to a guy that he seems to love Westerns. Boom. You got a good sandwich here. I don't know. But it would be interesting. And maybe this could be the one video game movie that could be good, especially Tarantino having not that many flops. He had like 1 or 2, but that's mainly it, to be quite honest. So, who knows? With a good script, with a good dialogue that Tarantino gives, this could be phenomenal. Nice Guys 2. Maybe? It sounds cool on paper. Maybe Tarantino doing something that wasn't a predecessor to one of his films. And Nice Guys, those Nice Guys, Russell Crowe and Ryan Gosling, seem like characters in a world like Tarantino's world. Almost kind of like Rick Dalton and I forgot the other guy's name, Leonardo DiCaprio and Brad Pitt's characters in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Ryan Gosling and Russell Crowe's characters feel like they belong in that Once Upon a Time in Hollywood world. So it'd be kind of interesting to have maybe Tarantino do this sort of thing. It's me. X-Force. The one Marvel movie I forgot to mention was X-Force. X-Force would be really cool. Sure, people have said that he's better off to do Tarantino if he does a Marvel movie. He's better off to do like a Deadpool sequel, but seems like they're unsure if they want to do a Deadpool 3 at this point, but you could do X-Force. I know Deadpool 2 kind of established that, hey, we're not going to do X-Force anymore. We're going to cut that shit and everything, but maybe there could be an idea of having X-Force somewhere in this cinematic universe or in this sort of thing. It'd be kind of cool to have him work with actors like Ryan Reynolds, Zazie Beetz, Josh Brolin, and whoever else you maybe throw in there. Maybe Bill Skarsgård, whoever, honestly. It sounds pretty cool. It sounds pretty fun. Terry Crews. This sounds like a fun cast that Tarantino could have fun with. A John Brown biopic. Seeing how biopics are not necessarily the thing, but why not have Tarantino do a biopic? He's done, not necessarily it's its own. At this point, biopics are their own genre. So it makes sense to kind of have Tarantino maybe do this sort of genre. Once Upon a Time in Hollywood has that sort of, not it's a complete biopic, but it is based on sort of some events with the whole scandal that happened with what's her name, Sharon Tate. Sharon Tate was Margot Robbie's character in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So that sort of like scandal, the whole like I think they molested her or raped her or something involving like this sort of controversy sort of thing, almost like a Ted Bundy sort of controversy. But I don't see why not in a biopic involving John Brown. James Bond. I know Bond 25 is going to happen and everything, but whether it's old school Bond or new school Bond, Tarantino could have fun with a spy film. It would be interesting. And there's only one spy film that is relevant and still going on to this day. That's Bond. You don't see Jason Bourne's done. Jack Reacher is, I don't even know at this point. Mission Impossible's done. Jack Reacher, I'm not sure about. John Wick is not a spy flick. I don't know why I said John Wick in the first place. I'm naming J names right now because you got James Bond, Jason Bourne, Jack Reacher, John Wick. So you got the 4 J's. So might as well throw in John. But point is that James Bond is obviously a current guy. So why not? It'd be kind of cool for Tarantino to do a spy espionage sort of cool, like old school. You can make it old school. That'd be kind of nice too. Nice nod, nice homage. Tarantino really loves the different old time eras like 60s and the 80s and all these different time periods throughout time and everything. So you could go full cheese or not, but it'd be quite a hell of a fun flick to watch. The Gecko Bros. Speaking of the Gecko Bros, I don't know or care if they're dead, honestly. And I know the Dusk Till Dawn franchise technically are the Gecko Bros movies, but to see just to have these two guys and no other characters, kind of like sort of like what I do with the Vega Bros, would be kind of cool. Heck, maybe you could do something before From Dusk Till Dawn. Like how did these brothers become convicts and criminals and sort of like these hitmen, assassins, guys on the run? What are they on the run for? What were they running from in the first place in From Dusk Till Dawn? I know they established it, but what else did they do before their crime? Because they said they were young. They were like almost young kids when they became these men and became sort of these hitmen. So what kind of set these chain of events to lead to where they are now? Sure, they're done with that franchise, but kind of a fun little project to do. So, my number one pick of my top 10 possibilities for a 10th Quentin Tarantino movie is, drumroll please. Oop, almost on my phone. All right, everything's all good now. A 1930s era gangster movie. So, we've never seriously seen Tarantino do a gangster movie. Sure, there's gangsters or hitmen or assassins or gangsters in maybe his other movies, but we've never seen a gangster movie like you expect in the 40s, sort of like Godfather gangsters, Scarface, those types of gangsters we've never seen Tarantino do before. He's done a short film involving gangsters, and it was Christoph Waltz and everything. So why hasn't he done something with that? Why hasn't he done anything with gangsters? I think this would be awesome for him to do, to have a gangster movie in that sort of era, whether it's before World War II or or after World War II or even during World War II. Gangsters were a big influence during from the 30s to the 50s. So you have this big opportunity to kind of go into the idea of, if it's pre-World War, you could have the idea that crime started up before the war happened. If it's during World War II, obviously with the war happening, crime risen because they took advantage of the world. You can have it be the aftermath of World War II because the war was over, so therefore gangsters again took advantage of the idea of the world being, hey, everything's all happy-go-lucky, everything's all good, we just stopped the Nazis and everything, and then all of a sudden you got these guys coming up out of nowhere, just killing, and busting, and pulling, popping, and everything. So, one way or another, would be really cool, and I think this would seem the most different. This could be the most, not necessarily the most original, but the most different, the most maybe what's the word? Nuance? Maybe Tarantino could do something different with this sort of with an idea of a gangster flick. Who knows? But to have him do something obviously different, I like the idea that maybe this guy should end his career. I don't want to see Tarantino do that, but if he's only gonna have 10 movies and that's it, I think he should go out with a bang, a literal bang, and do something with action. Maybe not even do it action. You can have it be a crime drama where not a lot of action happens. Something like maybe Godfather-like. Or you can have something like very impactful but very action-packed like Scarface. Maybe you could do something like Donnie Brasco. You could do something like Goodfellas. There's ideas of what you could do with a gangster flick, whether it's taking inspiration of, or you could add nuance or add something different. Tarantino has his own flavor compared to all these other guys have done gangster films before. When you look at Francis Ford Coppola, when you look at Martin Scorsese, they've done gangster movies very differently. Coppola has treated his sort of gangsters like the mob, like they've respected and everything. And all gangsters have that reputation that they want respect, they want power and everything. But there wasn't a lot of action going on. There was a lot more like drama, like with the family, with the sort of Italian mob and everything. You got somebody like Scorsese that has the sort of comedy, has the sort of action. You got Brian or Brianna Del Palma, who directed Scarface, has that same thing like Scorsese did. So Tarantino could add a different spice, a different flavor to a gangster sort of like I don't know, a gangster movie, obviously, compared to others, and he could add his own flavor to the table, is what I'm saying. And I think any of these movies would work perfectly, one way or another. I doubt Tarantino would get ideas like this from me because, yeah. But you're definitely a great director out there, dude. And disclaimer, I'm not promoting this director whatsoever, and I'm not promoting this movie. But I seriously, definitely, since I've started watching Tarantino movies, I definitely see why he's definitely one of the best directors and why he's the most influential and the most inspiring. And to see him end with one of these movies would be phenomenal. So let me know in the comments, what are some ideas you guys want to see? Is there anything you agree or disagree with? Anything you want to add? Is there anything you want to see him do completely different out of his comfort zone? Bring him into a different comfort zone. Have him do something that's in his comfort zone. Be a Western movie. Have it be something out of his comfort zone, like a horror movie. Let me know. And as always, guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please smash that like button. If you're new to my channel, please subscribe. I do awesome videos every day, if not every week. And make sure you ring that bell to be notified of new videos, new content every day, if not every week. If you want to check out my last video, I did a review for the movie Swingers. It's kind of fun. It's a fun movie a little bit. It's very, it feels very slow in the beginning, but by like the 40-minute mark, it picks up really fast. So it's fun. It's maybe worth watching. It's got some highs and lows. So you can check that out. I'll put a link in the description and everything. As for today, you can check this out, but also, I'm supposed to have a friend come by, and we're gonna maybe do a gaming video. We'll hang out. We'll do a versus sort of game. Like we'll do something with two players where we're gonna basically clash and fight each other. So I'm hoping he shows up. If not, expect probably something, probably maybe one or two videos, not tomorrow, but definitely Thursday. Tomorrow I got something going on, sort of. So that's for another time to explain. But yeah, look out for those videos. If you don't see anything else here, then this is all you're gonna get for today. Just for now, just bear with me. I'm gonna try and work in some edits and stuff like that, and work in different things and transitions and all this sort of thing. So my only thing is that sometimes my videos will be able to be edited, whether it's the video itself or it's my software. It'll sometimes there's days it'll work and then some days it won't work. There was one particular video that I was able to edit. It was not the best, but I did it quite well and I was happy about that. I'll leave that in the link in the description as well. But anyways, guys, thanks for watching and I will see you next time.